Farm. So what we're talking about right now is the N95 masks and the fact that there's a huge shortage of these. I have a handful of these for just random construction work because these are great masks for personal protective. If you're going to be dealing with a lot of sawdust, a lot of nastiness, under ideal circumstances, this is what you want. It has great particulate filters. It has this little adjustable nose piece so it'll really cinch down around your face. You're also not supposed to have facial hair when you're wearing them. Clean shaven, so that way it fits nicely around your mask. Now with what's going on, there is this option of what we did today. You can actually make your own homemade ones. They're not going to be as good, but they're going to be pretty darn close to this. It's not going to fit necessarily around your face as well, but what you could do is, especially if you work in the medical field, I've heard a lot of nurses and doctors are looking at doing this. And so if you're a sewer, this is something you might want to talk to any nurses or doctors that you may know and see if they want to do this. So what they'll do is you put on your N95 mask, and then they can put on this homemade mask. You put this on top. Alright, I don't feel like you can really hear me, so let's take them off. Ah, it's getting me. Now, by having it doubled up like this, what you're doing is this one mask can now be used for multiple shifts. Because this mask is now catching any particulates, any droplets, anything that might get on this mask is now being caught by this. And if they have, say, 2 or 3 of these every time they go to work, they can wear one of these and then, go through 2 or 3, 4 or 5 of these a day, and then as soon as they get home, they can throw these in the washing machine and clean them. So the theory is, even though we're really running short on these, a doctor or a nurse or anybody that works around sick people can wear this and then this on top to keep their N95 mask clean. So instead of wearing this for just a day, they can probably get a full week out of one of these N95 masks. Now, if you are just a normal person like myself, if you have to go to the grocery store, you can make your own and wear this to town, because this, in theory, should block out everything. So as long as somebody's not spitting on you or coughing directly in your face, and even so, this 100% cotton cloth doubled up, it should keep most of the virus from getting actually into your body where you can inhale it. The other thought is, if you have elderly family members, you could make a couple of these, especially if they live in, say, a nursing home, then they can wear this around the nursing home. So if somebody does have a cold or influenza or COVID-19 or whatever, they now have something that they can wear and then they can actually wash and reuse. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about what Mama Llama's going to be making in this video. I hope you find it informative. I hope it helps. So everybody just stay calm and stay safe.
So what you want to use is 100% cotton. These are just a tightly woven solid cotton. I'm also been trying to figure out if 100% cotton flannel, the soft flannel that's got that tight weave, would be good. And I think that's what I want to use for my 3rd layer, but I don't have any on hand at the moment, so we're just going to do our 2 layers. So you put it together, right sides together. We also pre-cut these are our earpieces. Using rope elastic beading cord, or since I don't have any of that on hand, I'm just making this on the fly. I also have this 1/8 inch flat elastic. With the flat elastic, I don't think you'll need to knot the ends because there's enough material for the stitches to go through at the end. However, with the beaded cord, you'll want to knot it so it doesn't accidentally, just rip out after you've made your mask. So start about halfway in. We'll go all the way around, adding our earpieces as we go. And I'm a little OCD, so I put pins in just so I make sure everything stays together. And like I said, I'm just using fabric I have on hand, so I had purple thread in, so we're doing purple thread with a nice pretty green fabric. About a 1/4 inch seam. And then make sure you do your back stitching so you get a good seam lock. Okay, stop at the corner. I already have my pre-cut 7-inch long cable to make our earpieces. Open up your edge, tuck it in. I don't know if you can see that or not. We're going to want to go to the corner with our edge kind of diagonal your earpiece in, and then tuck it back and out of the way so you don't accidentally sew it where you're not wanting to in the middle. Because when we turn this right side out, it will then be on the outside like it's supposed to be, and you can put it over your ears. Make sure we back stitch, especially since there is this cord. I'm going to do a couple back stitches over it to make sure it's good and stable. Needle down, turn your corner. There you will. And I can feel the cables out of the way, so forward stitch and back stitch to make sure we lock it in place. Alright, and then we'll run along this edge. Okay, turn back stitch, get it needle down. So then we can go in and we'll dig our earpiece out. So I think it would irritate. I'll make sure my earpiece is flat since I do have the flat elastic. So we'll make sure we pull our flat elastic over. We'll want to go all the way, pull it flat, put it in the corner. So see how nicely that lines up to that corner. Just lay your other piece on top. Make it at a diagonal so that we make sure our cord will stay in, and then when we invert the piece of fabric inside out, it will be ready for our earpiece. And then we'll want to back stitch, and I'm going to back stitch and forward stitch a couple times just to make sure I lock in that elastic really good. So needle down, we lift our foot up, let's twirl our fabric, put our foot back down so our machine will work. And so just make sure our earpiece is out of the way because we don't want to sew it here. And come forward. And then make sure we do a couple back stitches for this piece also. Just to make sure we lock that ear tag in good, because it would be a sad piece to lose because then your mask is worthless. Alright, so this is our easiest side. We'll be able to run straight, just making sure we stop in time to add our earpiece for this side. Alright, we'll put a little back stitching. May not be necessary, but it makes it so we've got a nice secure lock with a little stretch area. So we'll open up our fabric. We got our second piece of 7-inch long elastic cord. And like I said, mine is flat. However, you can use the beaded elastic cord like you would use for necklaces. Just tie a knot at the end so it doesn't accidentally pull through your stitching. So, and then I make sure I lay it flat out of my way. beaded straight up into that corner. Tuck the top down, and we'll finish stitching this side. Alright, and I'm going to back stitch. And I'm going to do this twice. It might be overkill, but I don't want my earpiece coming out. And down, turn your corner, make sure your cord is out of the way, and then we will go forward again. We're on our third side at this time. Right apart, there's my cord. Pull it to this corner, and we will tuck it in. And then we'll finish this side. And one more set of back stitching. Turn, down, forward, and back stitch. And one more time for good measure. Okay, so this is the side I technically started with. We're going to leave a gap. If you're not super great at flipping things inside out, a little bigger is easier. However, it is something you have to sew up second-wise. So we will cut my string nice and short. Here we have our fabric. I got my hole from the first side and the end. And then it's kind of just a game where you push it through and turn it inside out or right side out. So I do a lot of sewing of quilts and stuff, so I like to do one side and then you work your way down to the other side. And you actually got nice handles to pull it out. So stick your fingers in the corners. Make them pop out. Make sure we get all 4 of them. Alright. And just because I like things to be nice and neat, I'm going to roll my finger along here and push my seams so they'll want to lay flat on me. And I'm going to put a pin just so it stays put. One edge, this one's smaller, it's staying put, pull tight, and staying put, and then tuck your insides in here, so I don't have to worry about them wanting to gape, you know, and get away from me. I'm going to go ahead and put a seam really close to the edge and make sure this all gets sealed up nicely. I'll do a little back stitch and then go forward. Loosen the edge. Okay. We'll cut. Now there's nothing to gape open. We've sealed the hole that we had open. Nope, didn't go quite far enough. Seal the hole that we had open to pull our fabric through. might be overkill, considering I'm going to go all the way around the fabric again once I've put in pleats. Okay, so now finish trimming off my extra string or thread. Got a nice square. This is technically my second making. I made one, and I only put technically 2 pleats in it, and it wants to not quite bunch right, in my opinion. So instead of these bigger pleats, we're gonna shoot for 3 pleats on this one. So we're gonna go here, make a nice little pleat, put a pin in it. I'm just gonna put them on top of each other. Okay. Pleat number 2, we're gonna go here so that your fabric is, where your pleat is almost touching the next pleat. That looks about like 3 equal pleats to me. So, as you can see, they're pretty well evenly spaced. We'll see how that works out. Now we've got to replicate them on the other side. So the big thing with this is you want to match pleats from side to side so that it kind of pleats across squarely. So I'm going to try and just do a little folding trick, and we'll see how that works out for us. Here, see, more or less following from side to side. And that'll give us the same pleat, and we don't accidentally do pleats one side, pleats the other. Because if you're like me, it's hard to do things more or less backwards since I flipped it around. So there's one. Go to the next one. Alright, I don't work upside down very well. There's 2. I think that's 3. We'll match the other side now. Not quite exactly. Take these out and see how it looks folded up. And I don't know that the pleats have to be exactly equal. It just kind of gives you a nice pucker pattern so that one side's bigger than the other. So I think my pleats are overlapping on this side and are too close together. So So I think this will be about right from what I know of using face masks. Because once we'll sew this, so it makes this side be a certain size. So this looks a little small to me. And my first set of pleats, which were easier for me to do, I think, well, the first one, I think it's this one right here that I didn't get quite right. That looks a little closer to what it's supposed to be like. There we go. Pleats look similar. They look about like they're matching. They don't have to be exact, but that way you kind of get a similar fit on your face. So, we've got our pleats in. We've got our sides of our mask out. So, now we're going to stitch all the way around the border, and we're going to stitch all the way around the border twice just to make sure everything is held good and sound.
Okay, recording.
Okay, so now we're going to put our face mask. I'm going to go ahead and do what I would consider the hardest side first, is one of the pleats. We'll put it in there and go ahead and lock it in. I'm going to do a couple forward and back stitches just to make sure, like I said, I want to make sure our elastic is in good. Now, if you do very much sewing, this is not a problem for most people. I'm still clumsy, even though I sew a decent amount, holding things without pins. But you're already going through a couple layers of fabrics with the pleats and everything. You're making your machine work hard. Try not to get it caught in the foot, and then we'll sew it all together. Now that you made those pretty pleats, you want them to stay where they are. But if you try and go through the pleats and the pins, that's how we break needles. I'm going to go backward over this pleat edge just to make sure it's nice and sound. Line up my edge, pull my pin, and there we go. Down so I can turn my corner. Straight edge in theory should be easier. Put our foot down, because I have an older machine that I can just leave the foot up and it goes no matter what, and then my new machine, if I put the foot up and try and sew, it yells at me. So put our foot down, turn, head and pull our pin. Make sure everything stays lined up. And I'm going to go backwards just a smidge. my pen. Needle down, we'll turn our last corner. So all our pleats are made. And in theory, all this fabric is already secured. You probably don't have to do the back stitches. I just am because of the ear piece to make sure it's going to be stable. Just make sure none of your pleats accidentally get under your fabric where you're sewing. Sewing together pieces of fabric that we don't mean to is never fun. Because then you gotta go and rip out all the stitches. Which I'm sure any of us that sew have had to do that several times in the past. It's better to just avoid it. Just try and go straight over your stitches from before. More or less, we're just trying to reinforce and make sure everything stays put. If you don't get them exactly over top of your previous ones, it will be okay. If you feel like there's an area that's weak, you can go back and back stitch it. The only recommendation I have is make sure your earpieces stay out of the way of your stitching. And so normally I trim my threads as I go because I don't like them in my way, but I put this first set and left it here so that I knew exactly where I started, so I just made 2 complete loops from the beginning. And we'll go here. I will put in a couple back stitches. And everything should be locked and good. Trim off my threads. All of the ones that I'd left and my new ones. Careful not to cut your ear piece. And there we have try number 2 of the masks. So it pops up, pulls tight, lets you have a little more room. And this is just a 2-layer with 100% cotton to help with the crisis we have going on. It does help at least with contact with large droplets. It's not nearly as good as our N95s or our true masks, but when we have nothing, this will work. It's also something that we can use if you're in the healthcare system. You wear your N95, put this over top of it, since unfortunately at this point the healthcare system is having to ration and not throw away with each use like they should, because there isn't any more to replace it with. Put this over top, cover it, so this way you can just pop this off and wash these. And even if you have a couple of them and can switch these during your shift, that keeps the outside of your mask clean, so when you're using that same mask day after day, like we shouldn't have to, but we are, it's another layer of protection for us. So this is the mask we just made. Simple, 2 ear holes, and straight fabric. I've made a couple of those. Trying them on, I like to have a little closer form fitting around my nose so that it fits on correctly like you would think it would without many gaping. So I've actually modified my design. We took normal, what is this, 12-2 electrical wire. If you have your wire pliers, cut it, and then inside of it, it has coated wire. I'll have 3 strands. There's your copper ground, your black, and your white. What I did was I just pulled a piece out, measure it to length. Standard masks have about a 3-inch. I've already made one. It seems just a little wide to me, so I've modified it. I'm just going to use a 2.5-inch wire cut, and then duct tape the ends so that there's absolutely no sharp pointiness, so that we can make a formable bridge nose. So I have a new piece of fabric. With the new design, I'd said before it's 9x6. This gives me a little extra space and seems to fit my face. I do have a larger head, so you may still be able to do a 9x6 for most people, but this would fit everyone equally well also. So I'm actually saying the 9x6.5 seems to work better. We have our normal side. So what I'm going to do is I'll run a seam along the top, and then we'll go ahead and inverse it before we complete the rest of it and sew this in place. And that way when we flip it inside out, you have the bridge piece that's held in place with a square seam around it, so it's not moving and it's stabilized, and that gives us this nice bridge form even when we've pulled on the mask. Alright, let's zip this in real quick, and then so you still have to have your ear loops up here on both corners to meet your square. So start 1/2 inch down, just so you have room to work once you've flipped it wrong side out again. So, and we back stitch. What I do is I just flip it in half, make a little crease, mark it with my either pin, fabric pin, set my thing, so right here we go, just shy of, so 2.5, basically. Just giving myself some nice little marks to know where my inner pattern will be. Actually, if I was smart, we'd flip it this way. So, flip your pattern right side out. your seam so it's nice and tight. Alright. And then I'm gonna, like I said, start pretty far in because you only need a pocket. Let's actually mark it on the outside, shall we? So we can see where we're going. So give yourself this little extra room. So I marked just a little bit further past where it is. So I'm going to sew between those lines to make myself a pocket. And this wire's not very big. I mean, you literally give yourself the blade width of your foot and you will have plenty of space. So mark and mark. That around since I forgot to double sew. Alright. I like trimming off my extra thread as I go, just so I don't accidentally, catch it and back sew it and make it look odd. So we take our pre-made bridge piece. I have a 2.5 this time. I tried 3. It's kind of a personal preference. And you got your little pocket that you just made. Pop it in. And as we can see, it's between the 2 lines we just made. And then I'm just going to sew the ends so they stay in place. Secure. So we've got this side sewed. We're gonna sew the second side to finish the pocket. So again, this is just, it's not great standard of care. We're doing it because we have a mass shortage. It's not guaranteed to protect you. It, however, in theory should help just as a straight up droplet barrier protection. And it gives you some protection against what is going around, especially the bigger particles. Distance and social distancing is still the best practice, however. Alright, so let's sew the last side. And we'll back sew several times just to make sure we get a good pocket. Because this is why we went ahead and put duct tape Probably electrical tape would have been better. Like I said, this is more we're trying to make stuff out of what we have to be as safe as possible. These should work well if you're just doing distancing or to put over masks, so that we can reuse some of these masks that are not supposed to be usable. So I'm not going to bend it now, but it bends very well because I still have to, flip it back wrong side out and finish all our procedures. So we'll kind of tuck it, flip it back out, and what we do is we just continue on. So from this point, it's just like the earlier part of the video. It's just I'd made a couple of these masks. I've been wearing them, trying them out, seeing what I thought of them. I really just like the option to form fit it to my face a little bit. So the other thing I did with this second mask is, granted they're for my personal use, I also put a little tuck in the chin so it draws it up. So we put it on. It's already form fitted, and we'll have my husband model the other ones, but with that little tuck here, it form fits, it contours, and seems to be a little bit more appropriate.
Well, I hope you enjoyed Mama Loma's instructional video of how to make your own homemade mask. So she got all this information from a website from a medical facility where I guess the medical director has paired up with a sewing circle to start making them for his own hospital. So they have all the dimensions and some more instructions on how to make them. So we'll put that link in the comments section below. So I'm Ben with MD Triple Creek Ranch. Hope you enjoyed this video.